All right, I'm going to stream a flight today, Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. They just released DLSS version 4.0, and they also released a new graphics driver package. So it will be interesting to see what kind of performance we get out of it. Now, if you look down in the lower right-hand corner right there, it says Render Preset K. DLSS version 3.10.2.1, and as far as I know, that means I have the correct version of DLSS installed. I use DLSS Swapper, and through the Nvidia app, you can tell it to inject the latest DLSS into games. Now, before I get started, I just want to go to Settings. I want to go to Graphics, Global Rendering Quality. So I'm on Ultra, but I jacked my terrain level of detail up to 400. Everything here is ultra. I have anisotropic filtering turned off because I have it hard turned on in the Nvidia app itself. It's just something I heard somebody in all the countless flight sim performance videos I saw. So that's kind of what I do, and pretty much everything's on ultra or high. So this is fully maxed out. Now, I am flying in the Bonanza V-35B, the infamous Doctor Killer. This is one of my favorite general aviation airplanes of all time. Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, P.J. Richardson, and Richie Valens were killed in an aircraft just like this one. So was famed Ozzy Osbourne guitarist Randy Rhoads was also killed in one of these aircraft. They got, I was going to say, it got its name, its infamous name, Doctor Killer, because a lot of, rich doctors wound up purchasing these things, and they're, for especially back in the day, they're quite high performance. Being able to hit 160 knots is quite a bit. So let's see. Forgot to Now, it's been a while since I've actually played. It's been a couple months because, it's been so screwed up that with the launch of Flight Sim, it's been so messed up that I did not, it's just, I wasn't really playing that often. So, but let's go ahead and actually, I'm going to restart my flight because I think when I was moving the mouse wheel around, it messed with my trim.
Tower Beechcraft November 7 Tree 78, ready for straight out departure at runway 2 Tree.
Like I said, I'm trying to remember. There was a way to land or to load fuel through that app, but like I said, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've played. I can't quite remember how to do it. Well, let's go ahead. Now I'm taking off out of KFDK, Kilo Foxtrot Delta Kilo. And it is my gear up. It is my regional airport. It's funny, I took a discovery flight out of here in a Piper Archer. It was an Archer or an Arrow, I can't remember, but it was crazy how similar the two experiences were. You know, the plane I was taking my discovery flight in, it was in the sim. So I practiced flying all around, and when we got up in the air, like I said, it was kind of crazy how it's kind of crazy how similar the two experiences were. Now, here's flying over the quarry. Now, it's one thing I have noticed with DLSS 4.0, and it also could be, jacking the terrain level of detail up to 400. Everything does seem so much crisper and clearer. I mean, even like looking off in the distance, how used to look like a haze, and how absolutely clear that is. Now, like I said, I am running DLSS, and I am running DLAA, Deep Learning Anti-Aliasing, as my sort of default method. It that way there's absolutely no downscaling the image and then upscaling it back. And to me, DLAA provides you with the crispest, clearest image that you'll be able to get in Flight Simulator. Now I'm heading east toward Baltimore. Now this is Interstate 70 down below me. That actually goes, from the East Coast all the way out to California. I always find it amusing, like, there's every once in a while there'll be signs, there'll be, this town, 12 miles, this town 24, and then it'll be like, some town, 2,184 miles away.
Request flight following.
Beechcraft, November 73378, Potomac approach. Squawk 4457.
Squawk 4457, Beechcraft, Tree 78.
Trying to trim her down.
Beechcraft, Tree 78 radar contact. 3 miles north of 4 Mike. Delta 8, 2,900 feet, altimeter 29er. 9er 2.
Roger, Beechcraft, Tree 78.
Now for my controls, I am using a Wind Wing Orion 2 HOTAS. So it has the F-16 stick and the F-18 HOTAS. And then the F-16 stick has like an add-on that gives me 2 additional like hat switches. I've got a Logitech series rudder pedals. They're ancient. They're like, God, they've got to be close to 20 years old now. They're all beat up. My spring in the right spring for the toe brakes broke. So, I wasn't really about to replace rudder pedals just because of that. So I actually glued a bunch of fishing weights to it, and so that the toe brakes work on that side now. The rudder pedal just doesn't flop forward. So in the Army we would call that field expedient engineering. Now, like I said, I just absolutely love the Bonanza. It is a beautiful airplane. I love that V-tail. Now, with literally everything maxed out and terrain level of detail set to 400, and I'm still pulling, 74 frames, I couldn't be happier. Now, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens when we get into Baltimore. What kind of frame impact we have. But I mean, and so my hardware, I've got a MD Ryzen 7 5800X3D, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and a RTX 4090 with 24 gig of video memory. And so before DLSS 4, I certainly could not run if I could crank the terrain level of detail up to 400, it would just absolutely squash the frames. And so, like I said, literally having everything maxed out and still getting over 70 frames a second, couldn't be happier. To me, with Flight Sim, because it's not DCS, it's not dogfighting at 400 knots. If you get a steady, rock steady 60 frames a second, it's golden. I don't see why you would ever need more than that. And so my bottleneck right now is the main thread. And so now, I guess the question is, does that mean it's I'm CPU bound, not GPU bound? So I'm assuming that if the limited is the main thread, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's right now I'm CPU bound. And so I was having that question with my nephew, and I was telling him, I'm going to get a 5090. And he's like, well, aren't you going to upgrade your CPU and all that stuff? And I'm like, I will eventually. And he's like, well, why even get a 5090 then? And I just told him, because I can. But looking at that, maybe I should go to maybe I should go to the the 7800X 3D. Although I was thinking, if I'm gonna upgrade, I might go to like the 7950X 3D. One that, just more cores. I figure that could only help with streaming, video editing, and other productivity-based activities. There's Baltimore, right, up ahead. You can see the inner harbor. So I need to bleed off some altitude because it's no fun sightseeing. It's 6,000 feet.
Beechcraft 378, contact Potomac approach on 119er. 7, good day.
119er. 7 Beechcraft 378.
And so I am running the flight sim on a Samsung, I can't remember the name of it. It's like a G49. It's a 49-inch, 32:9 aspect ratio, ultra-wide monitor. Now it's a 1440p monitor that runs at a resolution of 5120 by 1440. I'm a big fan of the ultra-wide display, especially for flight sim, because you can see so much more. Your field of view is so big. It's almost as wide as an actual Cessna cockpit. So when I'm not flying VR, it helps with the immersion level. Now, if I can get, I was going to say, if I can get head tracking to work, that'll be awesome. I've experimented with OpenTrack in the past, but yeah, like especially when you're doing this and you've got head tracking working, it's I call it quasi VR. It really brings up the immersion level, but absolutely nothing. I don't care how big a screen you got or what toys you have. Nothing actually compares to VR. In VR, you actually feel like you're in the airplane. When you look out the window, you can sense that distance to the ground. It's everything's in 3D. So, I guess that's the main reason why I've never really got into home cockpit building and all that kind of thing, because, like I said, in VR, there's just no point of having that stuff. And so, what I'm hoping for is that eventually they get into hand tracking. And so there's another flight sim out there called Aerosoft FS Fly. I think it's 6 now. But it's actually a fantastic flight sim. It performs unbelievably well in VR, but they have total hand tracking, and it's rock solid, where you can actually just use your hands and you basically reach out and flip switches, turn dials, and do all that kind of stuff. It's crazy how well it works, and it's frustrating that flight sim is sort of behind the times in that arena. Off to my right, that's BWI, Baltimore Washington International Airport. In the DC Baltimore metro area, we've got 3 major airports: Dulles, Reagan, and BWI. And like I said, that's one of the big ones. I do think that's cool that, I guess some boats that have transponders that, send their data on a regular basis, they show up in the simulator. Now, they may not match up. They may not match up with exactly what's here, but I mean the ship types, but you see the names. There's Baltimore, so you can actually see. You can actually see Camden Yards. Camden Yards is right there. That's where the Baltimore Orioles play, and that is M&T Bank Stadium where the Ravens play. And this is the Inner Harbor down here. Now up here, that's Fort McHenry. And so that is the fort that during the War of 1812 that the British were bombarding, that Francis Scott Key wrote our national anthem all about that siege. Now up ahead you can see that's the Francis Scott Key Bridge. That's that bridge that got knocked down when that big freighter ran into it. It's probably almost a year ago. Now, for aficionados of The Wire, Season 2, the one with the dockyard workers, that was all filmed down here. I'm not quite prepared. I can't remember. Oh, so this right here is Fort Carroll. And so it was they started building a second fort to defend the port of Baltimore after the War of 1812. The head of that project was none other than Robert E. Lee. The fort was never completed. It was never, manned. And it's been abandoned for decades now. And there's like a bazillion birds that live on it, and they've been trying to figure out, hey, what are we going to do with this for a very long time. I'm going to circle back around. Get a closer look. Now I tell you what, the with DLSS 4.0, like one of the biggest complaints on people who, they refuse to use it and they would go with TAA because their method of anti-aliasing is, they claim DLSS makes everything blurry in the cockpit. I never saw it, but I will say the cockpit is substantially sharper than it was with the older versions of DLSS. So, I do notice that. Now, what's interesting is this ship right here. That was actually a experimental nuclear-powered merchant ship. It was built by the government, and I guess they wanted to see, could nuclear-powered merchant ships be profitable? And I don't exactly remember how long it was in service for, that sort of thing. But I remember I first saw that ship in the 1990 down in Charleston, South Carolina, when I was in the military shipping my car to Hawaii. It was down there, and I toured it then. And I had no idea it was up here until I was flying around in Flight Simulator, and I recognized the ship immediately. I was like, holy crap. So I had to look for it on the internet. And I looked for it on the internet, and yeah, sure enough, it's up here. But what's crazy is when I look at the leg mace, on the wording on the building, the leg mesa, it is a lot clearer. I mean, when I'm looking at these buildings, the level of detail from DLSS 4, I mean, it is a massive jump in clarity. It's crazy. I mean, now, I am sort of prepared to say that it could be confirmation bias, meaning, I upgraded, and, I'm thinking it's clearer, but I would say test it, if you haven't done it, test it for yourselves. Losing control. So what I was trying to do is, now, for fans of The Wire, in the first season, these are the low rises. And there's the high rises. But those are the low rises. Right there is where all that was filmed. Now, what's interesting is in the inner harbor down here, there's a Coast Guard cutter, and I cannot, for the life of me, remember what it is called. But, for example, there's the Constellation sailing ship, but that Coast Guard cutter's right here. That Coast Guard cutter is the last surviving ship that was at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. And what's interesting is in Baltimore, I mean, they have a whole, quote unquote fleet. They have that. They've got a submarine. They've got the Constellation. They have a lighthouse ship. That Coast Guard cutter. They got a bunch of ships that you can go on and check out. I want to do that, and I'll probably do it when it gets warmer, because you have to be crazy to go out there and super cold temperatures to see those ships. But anyway, that is Baltimore. Like I said, there's Fort McHenry. I'm going to boogie on down the Chesapeake Bay to Annapolis, the capital of the state of Maryland. Annapolis is also where the Naval Academy is. It's a small but very beautiful city. And then once I get done with Annapolis, I'll head over to D.C. You know, what's crazy is when I was flying around Baltimore, I did not even, I wasn't even monitoring my FPS, so I have no idea if there's an impact. I'm just noticing now that we're in the 50s. Now what's interesting is I wonder if performance is going to degrade over time. I noticed that with 2024, and they said, oh, there's a memory leak or something that the sim sort of degrades in performance over time. Switch over to the other tank. The aircraft seems to be rolling a little bit to the right, which could be fuel imbalance. Yeah, I could trim that out, but I'll just switch tanks and even it out. Now, I was going to say for if you want to know, hey, how do I get that DLSS thing to show? What version I'm running, just to make sure I'm running the right one. All you need to do is you need to come into Regedit, and then you want to come to HKey local machine software, Nvidia Corporation, and NGX Core. And what you want to do is you want to right click and add a key, or actually, excuse me, you actually want to add a D word, 32-bit value. When you do that, you have to type in, show DLSS indicator. Now it has to be spelled exactly right. So the S in show is capital, the D in DLSS is capital, and the I in indicator is capital. Those are the only three letters. It has to be typed exactly like that. Once you do, you modify it. And then you go down to your decimal and you change your value data here to 1024. Once you do that, and you launch Flight Sim, it will show you your what DLSS version you're using. So once again, down here, 310.2.1.
3000 foot Frontier Flight 1666.
And so, yeah, that's the easiest way to confirm whether or not you've got DLSS upgraded correctly. Now we're coming across up to the Bay Bridge. And this is actually one of the longest bridges in America, and it's tall. And what's crazy is there's a lot of people have a phobia of driving over bridges. I admit I've got it a little bit. I'll drive over them. It doesn't mean I like it. But there's there's a dude there who makes a pretty good living driving people's cars across the bridge. That's all he does. He'll drive it across, and he waits, and he'll drive one back and drive it across, drive it back, and it's crazy how many people actually pay somebody
below your assigned altitude. Climb
to drive them
maintain
across the
7,000
bridge.
foot altimeter 29er 9er 2.
I remember when the Queen Elizabeth II, ocean liner, she would come up to Baltimore and she'd go under the Bay Bridge, and she'd make it by, a couple of feet maybe. After I get done streaming, I'm going to take a short VR flight. See, I can't wait to see what DLSS looks like in VR. So this is Annapolis over here to our right, which we're coming around. So right up here on the water, that is the Naval Academy. Here is Navy Marine Corps Stadium. This is where the midshipmen play football. I've been to a lot of games down here, I tell you. You'd be hard pressed to find a better place to watch a game. It is a great stadium. And again, Annapolis is the capital of the state of Maryland. Here's the state capitol building. At least I think that is. Yeah, I'm not all that familiar with Annapolis. Like I said, I've been down there a bunch of times to see Navy, but yeah, you go down there, you park, watch the game, and you may go in to get something to eat. That's about it.
Frontier Flight 1666, you are 300 feet below your assigned altitude. Climb and maintain 3,000-foot altimeter 29er. 9er 2.
Now we're going to head out to Washington, D.C.
Climb and maintain 3,000-foot Frontier Flight 1666.
It's crazy, like when I'm looking in the window, I can see the reflection of my instrument panel, how clear that is. And I don't ever remember seeing that before. Once again, that could be pure confirmation bias again, but
300 feet below your assigned altitude. Climb and maintain 3,000-foot altimeter 29er. 9er 2. Climb and maintain 3,000-foot Frontier Flight 1666.
so way off, like over here in the distance, I'm pretty sure that is Washington, D.C. No better when we get closer, but I can see down here, there's the Potomac River, so yeah, pretty sure this is all going to be DC over here. So wow, FPS is taking a big beating. Down here in DC, so I was going to say maybe having my terrain level of detail set to 400 may not be possible in all areas. So let me Okay, that's the Anacostia River. It runs down here. Now up here is RFK Stadium. That's where the Redskins used to play. And a bill just got passed in the last month that returns that site from federal control to DC, the city of DC's control for 99 years. So there's lots of talk about tearing that stadium down and putting up the new Redskins Stadium here, which, God, I hope they do. Because the place they play in now, I forgot what it's called now, but it's a dump. It is an absolute dump. One of the other things I do love about Flight Sim 2024 over 2020 is the watercolor. They actually have the rivers are brown. That's what the Anacostia looks like, instead of the that bright blue that you got in 2020. But yeah, there's RFK Stadium. There's the DC Armory. Now there's a metro stop right here where you can get off. And God, my father had season tickets since the 70s, and I grew up going to games down there. So much fun. So that is Nationals Park. That's where the Washington Nationals play baseball. And that's Audi Field. That's where the DC United and the DC Defenders of the UFL, they play football there. So now, there was a collision of a Black Hawk helicopter and an airliner. That happened right over here. The airliner was coming in to land on this runway, and yeah, the Black Hawk was somehow in his flight path, and yeah, boom, they hit and fell in the river. Craziness. But that is Reagan National Airport. There's the Pentagon. Now, it's funny, it's like all the 9/11 conspiracy morons. You talk about, oh, the Pentagon was the most heavily defended airspace. You know, the airplane couldn't hit it. What a load of crap. Literally hundreds of aircraft, if not 1,000, take off and land right over it every day. You know, the Pentagon has no built-in air defense capability whatsoever. This is Arlington National Cemetery. You know, it's crazy when you live in an area, you sort of take things for granted. You know, I've lived here on and off, most of my life. I've never been to Arlington National Cemetery. I will see about rectifying that situation. So there is the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, obviously the Washington Monument. This is the mall. There's the White House. There is, I don't know, I think it's still called the Verizon Center. Oh, they change the name every 6 months. That's where the Washington Capitals play hockey. There's the U.S. Capitol, of course. That's actually, that building does not have a pink roof. That's a glitch in the texturing. Well, there's the Kennedy Center right there. Continuing, they do, theater, performing arts, blah blah blah. For history aficionados, there's the Watergate Hotel. That is the hotel where there's the break-in and cover-up that led to President Nixon resigning, even though he had no direct involvement in it. Once he found out about it, he tried to cover it up. And cost him his presidency. Up here is the National Cathedral. So we're going up this road here. This is, we're Chevy Chase, and then there's Bethesda. So this is Chevy Chase. That's a lot of money. You need a lot of money to live down here. And this is Bethesda. Like right up here is the National Institutes of Health. Actually, when I was in pest management, the company I worked for, we had the contracts for a lot of government stuff. We did the White House, the Vice President's place. We did the National Institutes of Health, and so I worked there for a while. And what's funny is, some of the buildings that I was responsible for. One of them I used to serve as Dr. Fauci's office, and all those stupid conspiracy theorist people, rail on about how evil he is, blah blah blah. I chatted with him on and off for 5 years, and he was always the nicest, coolest guy you could imagine. But over here is Walter Reed Army Medical Hospital. I think it's been merged with the NIH though. But yeah, that's the NIH. That's Building 10 here is the main hospital.
Potomac Approach,
That building right there, that
November
was
7,
Fauci's,
3378,
the building that
3,200
Fauci worked in.
Beechcraft November 73378 Potomac approach altimeter.
But back when they were bringing in,
Two radar contact,
like,
continue.
they had that sort of Ebola breakout, and they were bringing those people into America. They were taking them to that hospital right there. That's where all the Ebola people went. And I remember I'll be honest, I didn't do Building 10s. I wasn't really that nervous, but I was thinking, how crazy is that? But what's funny is they all got better. And it's like, gee, with proper medical treatment, Ebola is actually quite curable. Who knew? Got into all the media hysteria of Ebola, it's going to kill us all. Yeah, actually, if caught early and treated properly, you're fine. So this is Rockville, Maryland. At least I think it is. Well, I think that's going to end this little test flight. All in all, I would say the DLSS 4.0 is a big improvement for Flight Sim. The new Nvidia driver package seems to be working great. And I was going to say, I hope you enjoyed the sim, or the stream. Please comment, leave any comments you wish. Like and subscribe. And until next time, everybody have a wonderful day.